Hello everyone, and welcome to ESET's presentation, Safer Technology Through Awareness, Response, and Automation. My name is Ben Reed, and I'm Senior Technical Content Strategist for ESET North America. And one thing that we've seen over the years is that lots of organizations do not give budgetary priority to their IT departments. What this means is there's IT departments with not enough staff or not enough budget to do their jobs effectively. In the education world, this problem is compounded by one-to-one initiatives that are greatly increasing the number of operating systems and devices that IT departments have to support. So in some organizations, this means slower response times, or IT departments are moving towards automation to reduce these response times. So across this webinar, we're going to go through a few different things. We're going to look inside the IT department of organizations. We're going to look at the threat landscape, and finally, we're going to look at ESET solutions that can help you with this threat landscape and increasing the amount of time that your IT department has to spend on other projects. But before we dive into inside the IT department, a polling question first. And it's asking, are you currently an ESET customer or partner? You can answer this poll simply by choosing one of the answers in the slide area, then pressing the submit button. And I'll give you a few seconds to answer that before we dive right into the presentation. All right, so inside the IT department first. So what we've seen is that education are driving to the one-to-one. So lots of schools, that's the direction that they're moving. And in a recent poll, we saw that 82% of districts are interested in implementing or expanding a one-to-one solution within the next 2 years. And 60% need help managing this new fleet of devices. In years past, previously, IT departments only had to manage Windows. But now they have to manage Windows, Macs, they have to manage mobile devices like Android and iOS. So they're adding a lot more areas that IT departments need to be familiar with, and a lot more different OSs that they need to support, and potentially a lot more tools that they need to support those different operating systems. And so when you look at top IT priorities for 2017, and this comes from Spiceworks, one of the most common things that people were looking for and the highest priority item was an advanced security solution. So maybe they were spending too much time remediating threats. Maybe their endpoint security solution wasn't catching as much as they might have wanted. But the second and the third things tie directly into the education space. People are looking for more automation technology, so that it will automatically remediate threats for them. It'll automatically do things for them. It'll send them notifications only when their assistance is required. And then mobility and BYOD, because of that move to one-to-one initiatives, we're seeing a lot more companies become interested in a mobility type of solution. We did a recent study in Canada, and what this showed us is that employees of organizations, not IT departments, think that their organization is not spending enough time on IT security. And only 51% of people think it's very important to train the user base on security procedures. And what we'll see in a little while is that users are a main problem with security infrastructure. When they don't know about these threats that are out there, they tend to click on more emails. They tend to go to websites that they shouldn't. So by reducing how much time your users spend doing these things that they shouldn't, you can reduce the overall amount of threats that your organization is running into. So before we hop into the next section, the threat landscape, I'm asking, what problems do you have with your current endpoint security or antivirus solution? These are some of the most common problems that we see with customers who are moving to ESET. So if you can go ahead and fill out this poll, same way, choose one of the answers in the slide area, then click submit. We have lots of the most common answers, things like false positives, missed detections, maybe the management server is kind of clunky. Or one of the big things that we're seeing more often nowadays is no cross-platform support. Because lots of companies are having Macs at their school nowadays. or they are having iPads or Android tablets at their organization. So they really want a solution that can manage all of their devices from that single pane of glass. Next, the threat landscape. So over almost every day, definitely every week, data breaches are in the news. This isn't limited to just private companies or retail establishments. This is happening in every single vertical out there, including education. So as you can see, I have some of these school districts listed. Colleges, entire colleges or high schools, all have had data breaches, and this is just in the past couple months. We've seen these data breaches occurring. And what tends to happen when data breaches happen is that the school isn't the one that necessarily suffers. It's the students, it's the teachers who suffer because their data is the one that's actually lost. And so people start asking the question, why are these data breaches happening more often nowadays? They didn't happen several years ago, or we didn't hear about them several years ago. So what's driving this increase of data breaches, and what can we do to stop them? So the Ponemon Institute did a study in 2016. They actually do this every year, and they were trying to dive into the root cause of data breaches. And they found that 52% of data breaches are completely avoidable. 25% was human error, and 27% was process failure. And process failure is simply you deployed an endpoint security or encryption solution, people complained, you removed it. So then you got a data breach because there was no endpoint security or encryption solution on those devices anymore. Or you purchased a solution, but then you never got around to deploy it because you had other priorities. So that's process failure. And human error, on the other hand, tends to be users losing devices or devices being stolen. And most people think that it's going to happen at a coffee shop. It's going to happen at the airport, when in fact, devices are typically lost or stolen from people's own workplace and work area, or also in their vehicle. So they left it in their car and it was stolen out of there. So just informing staff and students that this is where these data thefts happen can help them to be more cautious about where they leave devices hanging around. If we look at malicious breaches, though, 18% of malicious breaches that are occurring happen from social engineering. 23% happen from hacking. And 59% happen from malware. And when it comes to hacking, lots of people think that it's going to be someone doing all of this complicated things on their computer. And it's these things that no one understands unless you've studied hacking for many, many years. When in fact, the majority of these hacking incidents are simply guessing people's weak default or utilizing passwords that had previously been stolen in other data breaches. So it's not technical hacking for the majority of these cases. So when it comes to password policy, there's a lot that you need to know. First is the use of social media and the downfall of security questions. Because these questions here are typically located on people's Facebook accounts. Things like, what city did you grow up in? Or what's your dog's name? But these questions are most commonly utilized in password resets and security questions. You simply verify your birthday, which can easily be found on social media. Then you answer security questions. And people typically put in the correct answers to these questions. So all they need to do is know who your best friend is or what your dream job is, and now they've gained access to your account. Other companies, because of the change of passwords and because they're not training their users as much, people have poor password hygiene. After they've changed their password, they write it on a document. They keep it in an Excel file. They write it on a sticky note and put it under their keyboard, because they have a hard time remembering this really complex password that they put in place. Other people, they freely share their password with friends, family members, other coworkers. And this is even more common in organizations that require people to clock in and clock out. Because then when they're running late for work, they call their friend who's already at work and say, here's my password, can you clock me in? Other things that are happening with passwords is this is what happens when password complexity comes into the mix. Some places require you just simply have an 8-character password. You go to the next website and it says you need an 8-character password and 1 number. Or you need an 8-character password with 1 number and 1 symbol. And users aren't actually changing their password. They're just adding on and tacking on a number or a symbol on the end. So it's not really increasing the complexity to break in and steal people's information. When you require people to change passwords every 90 days, this is what we see. Users simply go to the next number and the next symbol on their keyboard. So once again, they're not increasing the complexity needed or the difficulty needed to break into these accounts. And so these data breaches we're seeing are happening because passwords are extracted. When there's a new data breach, passwords are extracted from that data breach. Then they can take those passwords that they found and they can try them on all of the different websites, banking websites, buying e-commerce websites. And they can try out your password on these websites. And if your password that was stolen doesn't work, they can try all of the alternative options, like going and changing the symbol that's on the end or the number that's on the end. And computers can carry out these tasks in fractions of a second. So it's very important to practice good password hygiene so this doesn't happen. A great website and resource out there is this website here. It currently checks over 79 websites and 284 million compromised accounts are contained within their data breach. We typically recommend to treat it like a credit check. Keep checking this. Make sure that there has been no data breach where your credentials have been stolen. You can sign up for notifications when this happens. And if it ever does happen, make sure you completely change your password. Not just the numbers and symbols on the end, change the entire thing. And the other big component of the data breaches was malware. And as you can see, this is the growth of malware that we've seen over the years. This comes from AV Test. And now we're at a point where we see about 390,000 new unique pieces of malware every single day. But what's been the focus of many organizations and the media especially has been ransomware and the rise and history of ransomware. And ransomware really isn't that new. We saw originally ransomware back in 2006, where they were password protecting zip files. So they'd zip up all of your documents and Excel files, then they'd password protect them. Then they were requiring you to send a text message to a premium number. So after you texted them, it charged you $100 or whatever, then they responded back with the key needed to decrypt your data. But as you can see, this has been ransomware over the years. Where we're at now is, of course, the lock screens that pop up. And all of your files being encrypted very, very quickly. And we've also seen a rise of malware across different OSs. Whether it's Android-specific malware, Mac-specific malware, or just regular Windows-based malware. One of the main problems across all of the OSs, no matter what it might be, is that on average it took companies 256 days to identify that a data breach occurred due to malware. So not only is malware rising and not only is malware a problem, companies have a hard time figuring out when a data breach happened due to malware. And typically that's because once their AV or endpoint security is installed, they trust what it says. If it doesn't say there's a threat on their machines, they believe it. So then it takes them a long time to find out that something has been going wrong for a very long time on their machines. Because they have to wait for that AV to be updated to detect it. Or they have to wait till they try another solution. Or they have to wait until something starts happening on the device that makes them suspicious. And then also social engineering. Social engineering and spam really go hand in hand. It's people pretending to be something that they're not. One of the most common forms of social engineering comes via email. And they're trying to pretend that they're UPS, USPS, Amazon. And they're trying to get you to click on links and then provide them with information that they can use in further attacks. When it comes to spam email, we're now seeing that 54% of all inbound email is spam. And protecting against spam goes a long way in protecting your users from malware and phishing and social engineering attacks. And 1 in 20 emails is also malicious now. And one of the major problems, though, with these phishing emails is that even though you'll talk to users, you'll talk to students, and they say, oh, we never, ever click on those emails. We never open up those attachments. We can easily spot those sorts of things. The numbers don't lie. And we see that 30% of people open phishing messages, and this is up 7% from last year. And 12% go all the way and open up attachments. Not just the emails, but the attachments as well. So it's opening them up to all of these threats that can initiate directly from those email attachments or from macros in Office documents that we're seeing more commonly nowadays. So because of this, because of all of these different threats, we're seeing a heavy need for automation, for making an IT department's life easier. Because of the increase in devices, the increase in mobility and new OSs that they have to support. They need a way to also filter the alerts so they're only notified when certain things matter, when they actually have to take steps to prevent whatever it might be. And then finally, you really want, as an IT department, to have a faster incident response. That's the thing that all IT departments are striving towards, so that users don't have to wait when they have an issue or problem. And before we hop into ESET solutions and what we can do to help you in these areas, what requirements do you have for an endpoint security or AV solution? Do you require that cross-platform support, like Mac and Linux? Maybe you're looking for a cloud management server or on-premise management server. Maybe you're an organization that's going very heavily to virtualization, whether it's with servers or maybe VDI type environments. Or maybe you just are curious to see what's out there and you really don't have any real requirements. Maybe you just evaluate AV products every couple of years when it comes up. And I'll give you a couple seconds to answer that poll, then we'll move on. So, ESET solutions. First, a little bit of background on ESET. So ESET, we have offices worldwide, and we're very much a worldwide organization. You can see we have offices across all of the continents out there, including North America, South America, Europe, Australia, Asia. We don't have anything in Africa yet, but maybe that's coming down the line. But the beauty of having offices worldwide is it allows us to see threats as they're happening, before they make their way to the United States, or before they make their way to Europe. Maybe they initiated somewhere else first. We have the intelligence to help protect our users even better because of our worldwide presence. So a little bit about ESET, the company. We've been around since 1992, even though our product was originally developed in 1987. So we've been developing endpoint security solutions for 30 years. We have over 1,200 employees worldwide. We have partners spanning 200 countries, and we're now the 4th largest business endpoint security vendor in the world. And over those 30 years, we haven't just been stagnating. We've been constantly evolving and enhancing our solution to protect against all of the newest threats. We don't just protect against viruses. We don't just protect against malware. We protect against anything malicious on the systems at all. That includes, of course, Trojans, worms, ransomware, any of these sorts of things we protect against. And so as you can see, we've been doing heuristic detection since 1995, behavioral since 2002. One of the most recent things that lots of companies are talking about, fileless malware. ESET developed advanced memory scanner back in 2013, and its sole purpose is to detect these forms of malware that only exist in the memory. So we've been having that for a long time already, even though companies are just now starting talking about it. ESET, we have products for all of the different OSs that you might have in your organization. So whether it's Windows, Mac, Linux, maybe you're looking for an MDM solution as well. All of it ties directly into that single pane of glass. We have products for servers, including mail servers, that protect not just from malicious content, but also from spam. And as you can see, we have a few other server options as well. The ESET Management Server is the management server for all of our ESET endpoint security products. You can deploy it by installing on Windows. You can install it on Linux. And we also have a virtual appliance for anyone who has any sort of virtualization. They can import it easily into those hypervisors. And we also include an agent that works offline and online that allows us to do much more than just manage AV. It allows us to do things like asset management, so we can automatically sort, detect, and filter based off device identifiable information. So if you want to know how many computers are HPs or Dells, or how many computers are running this OS versus that OS, we can do that directly from the management server. We can also do software management and automatically detect, install, and uninstall all third-party software. So you can run reports and see what applications are installed across your organization and how many computers those applications are installed on. You can also automatically install and uninstall. And once you set it up once, you never have to set it up again. So if you want to make sure that always a piece of software is installed on computers, you can configure it once and we'll make sure that that happens. Or if you never want a specific software to be on computers, if we ever see it get installed, we can uninstall it for you. We can also fully manage updates. We can detect and install all OS updates across Windows, Mac, and Linux. So it simplifies the process by once again tying updates into that same management server. We can notify users about downtime or IT violations by popping up a message on their screen from the management server. So now when a user installs something they shouldn't, we can first let them know that they violated an IT software policy, then we can automatically remove it from their machine. Or we can tell them, please don't shut down your computers this weekend because we're going to be doing patching. And then we have full Android and iOS MDM built directly into the management server, so you can do things like application control, web filtering directly from the management server. And our management server also makes it easy for you to get started. It's pre-configured to our best practices out of the box. We have 24 pre-configured policies based off things that IT departments typically want to put in place. One of the most common is they want the endpoint to be completely invisible. They don't want the icon, notifications, alerts. So you just simply choose that policy and apply it, and then you're done. We automatically remediate threats that we find, so there's never a situation where a threat was detected, but it was sitting there waiting for an IT person to decide what they wanted to do, and while they were waiting, it went and took over the system. We have automatic exclusions configured in all of our server products for Microsoft applications, so you don't have to spend time trying to figure out what those exclusions are and then putting them in place. And finally, we have free US-based support. So whenever you get stuck, whenever you have problems setting something up, don't hesitate to reach out to us via chat, email, or phone, and we can help you with any problem that you might run into. So how do you switch? So switching AVs we know can be a nightmare. Requires several reboots, requires downtime, and it doesn't work sometimes. So ESET created something called ESET Rip and Replace, which simplifies and automates the migration from any AV you might have to ESET. It's a single MSI. It requires no reboots, no downtime, and no user interaction at all. You simply deploy out this MSI and it will fully remove whatever AV, install ESET, have it connecting into your management server, and the best part is we guarantee it to work 100% of the time. So it removes any sort of migration hesitation that IT departments have from previous experience, because we make the process as easy as possible for you. And then ESET also offers secondary product offerings. in the encryption and two-factor space to help you out with any needs that you might have in those areas. And it follows the same ESET model of trying to keep it as easy for the IT admin as it is for the end user. It needs to be easy for both parties. So ESET's two-factor solution is a 13 megabyte installer. It requires no dedicated hardware. That means no dedicated server and no dedicated hard tokens. And it integrates directly into Active Directory, so it's just as easy to manage as your users in Active Directory. And then our encryption solution is centrally managed and requires no network changes at all. So it doesn't matter where devices are in the world, you can fully manage them no matter what. And we like to call it having user-proof removable media, because it's very easy for end users to manage their removable media devices and securely move data from one machine to the other while restricting data from home coming into the organization. So we have one final poll before you hop off the webinar, and it's I would like to request one of the following. And we have quite a few choices here, as you can see. Contact from ESET Sales, live technical demo, business trial, information on becoming a reseller or partner, or none of the above. So I'll give you a few seconds to answer that poll. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining today, and have a great day.